Welcome to the Daily Plunge. We are in the book of Genesis, chapter 41, verses 41 through 57. Now, Joseph, the Lord is with Joseph and has been working on Joseph. And Joseph has finally died to himself, right? And we know this because back in verse 16, when he's asked about being able to give an interpretation of a dream, which before he claimed on his own, he says, I cannot. His ego has come to an end. And he says, but God will give the answers Pharaoh desires. And so, in this sense, Pharaoh has died to self so that God can be at work in him. And because of that, he was able to interpret Pharaoh's dreams, to give wisdom and counsel to Pharaoh about how to proceed in order to protect Pharaoh to protect his nation, right? But God has he's working a bigger scheme here than just Egypt. So Pharaoh says, well, who are we going to put in charge? And they elevate Joseph to be the guy. And so, these 2 years of being stranded in prison, of being in the pit, he's now exalted. And it is because he died to himself that God is now able to use him and lifts him up, right? And so he's exalted. And he's put at the right hand of the Pharaoh. Again, all of this is a premonition of Jesus Christ himself. Not that Joseph is the Messiah, and the Pharaoh puts his signet ring on his finger, puts a robe of fine linen around him, which reminds us of the prodigal son story, right? And puts a gold chain around his neck. And he has him ride around in the royal chariot so that everyone can see this guy is number 2. He is the vice Pharaoh, like the vice president. And Pharaoh says to Joseph, if it wasn't for you, this was going to be a disaster, right? No one was going to lift a finger, but you gave a vision. And so I'm going to give you a new name. And he names him Zaphanath-Paneah, which in Egyptian means the nourisher of life. And so Joseph is serving the Lord by nourishing the life of the Egyptians and others. And the Pharaoh gives him the daughter of a high priest to be his wife. And in the good times, he has 2 sons. And the first one he calls Manasseh. And he says that what his name means is to forget. That the Lord has made me to forget all my trouble and all my father's household. Well, it seems like if you have a child named, hey, forget that stuff in the past, you'd keep remembering that stuff in the past. And to a certain extent, it's kind of like the scars of Christ. Yes, they have been healed, but they are meant to remind you of what God has done on the cross. And the other one's name is Ephraim, that God has blessed him. Well, Joseph does his job. He gathers the grain after 7 years so that there's a store of grain to be given back to the people. They buy it. But it isn't just the people of Egypt. That all the people from the known world in that area come to Egypt. And that's where the rest of our story will pick up. Hey, thanks, friends. Have a blessed day.